Observe mode. Ready. So yes, the areas I was talking about. So this area here, this is Anbennar. This is the Empire. That's where the humans live with halflings and gnomes. Gnomish Empire used to be this area. And when you start out, the kobolds have just risen up and taken the Dragon Coast, which is this, which is like the gnomish homeland. So the start of the game, the gnomes are trying to retake all of this, which they've done in this. Then all of this area is empty. This area is empty. That's where the orcs came in and wiped out the old kingdom of Escan. And then you have the adventuring companies fighting against the orcs in this area, and then you'll get the successor kingdoms like Adenica, like Luciand, like Newshire, like Covenblad rising up and taking this back. Then you have the mountains, which are these bits. This is the spine of the world, where the orcs rose up, wiped out the dwarves, and then attacked into this. So when the orcs attacked into this, all of this emptied, and the dwarves were able to start re-establishing control. So you have some adventurer dwarves like Kugdir and like Harras Ordum, which are sponsored by the dwarves left over here. And then you have a couple of remnant holds like Ard Odston and Ovdal Kanzad and Verkal Gulan, which basically battened down the hatches, weathered the storm of the orcs, and now the orcs have gone again, they're starting to recolonize everything around them. Then you got Busalar, which is the human homeland, which I know very little about, except for the fact that usually one nation takes over everything, be it Jad or be it the Phoenix Empire. Then this is basically India. Lots of human and Rakshasa kingdoms vying for control under a centralized... It's basically Japan, this. The way it's organized is Japan. So at the moment I think it's Rabid Daraj is like the Shogun, and then all of these guys are subservient to the Shogun. So within each other, they're fighting each other constantly. But if somebody, say, the Command, which is these orange guys, attacks them, then they'll all band together and fight against the Command. And the Command are the Hobgoblin Kingdom. Then up here, you have the Ogres and the Centaurs fighting over the plains. And then you have the Lake Federation, which are humans which basically just fight against each other, eventually forming a Federation, which is what Soldier-Lust are. Bjarnrik are basically the Vikings. And then over here in the New World, you've got the nations like Jordland, like Chaos, like Boyaskavo, which are the remnant elves from the explosion. Most of this is empty, most of this is empty, except for the remnant Ruinborn. And then you have the colonizers from like Vern, Lorent, Duran, Ebethil coming in, starting to colonize this, in direct opposition to the remnant elves. And then there's some areas which aren't filled in yet, like Fake China, which is the stuff even further east, which is at the moment just empty space. Just because it hasn't received content. And also Fake Africa has the same thing, which is where the Gnolls and the Lizardmen came from. How does movement in the holds work? So if I switch this to the terrain overview, you can see precisely where the mountains are. I just prefer this view because I can see the political stuff better. So within the mountains you have these dwarven tunnels which connect the various caverns, which are these guys. And then at various intervals you have the squares as opposed to the rectangles. These are the old dwarven holds. Like that's one, that's one, that's one. That's one. There's one. These are very, very powerful positions that you can take over. They usually have really good trade goods, and they can get very, very high development. So if we go over to Ovdal Kanzad's capital, for example, it has a development of 80 at the moment. Verkal Gulan probably also has something pretty high. 43. Ardordston, 47. The central ones, 46, 24... 25. This was the dwarven capital in here. And then between the mountains you will have areas like this, and as long as they have the dotted lines, they basically act like straight crossings. You can walk between the tunnels. So really this whole mountain range is all interconnected. But you can't get from here into the tunnels. It's only the tunnels that connect. So this technically goes underneath this, and this passes on the surface. Like when you're really zoomed in, like if you're playing as the dwarves, you're not playing up here, you are playing in here. And then you can see these connections a lot more easily. And also for the outdoor passages, you generally have an icon like this, which says, okay, that's a tunnel leading to the outdoors. So there's one, there's one. These are also technically passages, although not guarded by a hold. There's one, etc. Anyway, we got battle going on. We have Rubenair fighting against Boliscavo. 96,000 against 98,000. Small country with a couple of reinforcements around. Arboran with a couple of reinforcements around. 100,000 against 100,000. Boliscavo definitely with the better general, but Rubenair and small country with the better quality troops by the looks of things. Although this is actually pretty close. Losses suffered on both sides, and morale is looking like it's on the Boliscavo side. Although small country does have a lot of extra troops that they can just throw into the fray as soon as they are needed. And again, this is the back line of small country just fighting against them, because all of these infantry units and these cavalry units stuck in the back row, not contributing, but still taking morale damage. Which is why you really want the artillery there, because the artillery can, A, hit the guys from the back line, and B, half of their pips are presented to the guys in front, which is basically covering fire. So the fact that the small country does not have enough artillery in the back line is really, really causing them problems. And is something they will want to try to solve going forward. Hard to do, though, when you're managing mercenary companies. There's a very small group coming in. It does look like the small country are going to be the ones to lose here, but they are definitely inflicting a lot of damage. An awful lot of damage. But yeah, their front line is just shattered, and they're about to retreat. So now you want to tell them where to go. There you go. If you manually do the retreat, I think they retreat properly. If you just let it happen automatically, then they don't. Small country, too small for the cannons. I mean, it should be even better for the halflings, because the cannons can shoot over their heads. They should have an artillery damage from back row bonus. Aesolasianus. So Rubenair currently trying to siege down the Hammerholm fort. We've got some Redglade doing the same. The Arboran incursion into Adenica seems to have ended. Adenica, meanwhile, trying to siege down Ancardia once again. Ancardia basically being the Prussia of Anbennar. Meanwhile, what are the elves doing? Here's a good question. So Kryenvar, basically sitting back, licking their wounds. They're currently fighting against Verkor Kunazad, trying to take over more of the caverns, and in fact they've been populating this, colonizing this area really quite aggressively, which is interesting. Thieving Arrow, have you aligned yourselves with them yet? No. Thieving Arrow is still only allied to Spider Wretch. They must have like a non-aggression pact or something agreed. And if I was Ovdal Khanzad, I'd be very concerned about this, because Verkor Gulan is a Phoenix Empire vassal. Greedy Grin, I believe, is still independent. Yep. So Ovdal Khanzad is going to want to expand up to here, take all of this as quickly as possible, take these caverns as quickly as possible, then probably push towards the command and really establish themselves up here. This is very wealthy territory, and the only rival you're really going to have is Dejanraj and the other Rakshasa. Rega Jundi, who is this? This is definitely one of the Raj nations that just kind of got lucky. What are your ideas like? Like, are you actually someone that's risen up? The Ruined Kingdom. National tax, land maintenance, advisor cost with ruler's culture, prestige, diplo annexation, discipline, tech cost, legitimacy, splendor, nobility, national manpower, goods produced. They're all right. I wonder if they form somebody else later. Probably got released from the command, yes. Interesting. And they follow the high philosophy, which is the religion of these guys. And they are also Ragnarjandi. So the command is definitely faltering. Meanwhile, looks like Arboran lifted the siege in Hallandsar, sending Adenica packing. Adenica's army is back there now. Looks like most of Corinthar and Covenblad has been occupied by Rubenair and Rubenair's minions. I think it's mostly Rubenair's minions. Oh no, Rubenair does have an army here as well. Small country still fighting the border skirmishes, though not really presenting much of a threat. Hammerhome is offering peace. So I think right now Adenica is trying to piece out all of this, just take as much land as they can, and then they can turn their full might against Arboran. Arboran at the moment fighting a bit of a holding pattern and trying to weather the storm, though most of their manpower is now gone. And small country hasn't lost any manpower really. I mean, I really want to see the small country just building some artillery. Like, all they need to do is just build a couple more artillery units and then just have them attached to these mercenaries. Problem solved. Like, we've seen Arboran do it. Arboran's been doing that very effectively. Just the small country hasn't. So we've got Rubenair jumping on a... Arboran army jumping on Rubenair. Small country going, nope, and not helping out their buddies. And looks like Rubenair is going to be backed off. Adenica is being attacked by Karuvia. And Marhold. Is Marhold doing the big betrayal? So Karuvia trying to jump in on this as well. It is. Marhold has in fact jumped on and backstabbed their old ally that helped them so tenaciously against Cryenvar. But Adenica does have new friends now. So what Karuvia is really going to be bringing to this show is manpower. They're going to have some pretty big armies, although even they have not recovered from the Cryenvar fights. Marhold, manpower, and also some pretty hefty cavalry combat abilities. Although their cavalry has sunk into oblivion since they switched to Coronite. It's really the Regent Court that have all the cavalry buffs, and seeing as Marhold is a cavalry nation, I still maintain it's a mistake for them to have switched to Coronite. Like, one of the few nations where it's a mistake to switch to Coronite. Oh, we have another Boiscavo versus small country. We have a couple of Arboran forces. No, Arboran's pieced out. Well, that's interesting. So small country fighting against Boiscavo at the moment. Small country with like 6 times the manpower. I don't know, I can't stream maths this right now. But Boiscavo just doesn't have the troops to really face off against that. And this fight is now just small country against Boiscavo, and then small Adenica versus Karuvia. So that other war has now completely pieced out. What did Adenica gain from it? Because I think they were mostly going after Elnor. They gained these two up here from Elnor. And that's it. Oh, and small country gained south flood marches from Arboran. Because Arboran had an outpost here, which small country have gained. So now the fight's going to be Adenica versus Karuvia, and I strongly suspect this is going to end very badly for Karuvia. Because we did see in the fights against the elves, their army quality is just not the best. And without Arboran's support, they are going to struggle. And in fact, we're seeing it here. Rubenair and Adenica's armies just obliterating Marhold and Karuvia. They just don't have the quality for this. And I don't think they even have the troop numbers for this either. And you're seeing it from these numbers that are rising right now, how badly this war is going to be for them. So, Adenica's armies showing their quality there. They still have enough manpower to continue this. They're probably being bankrolled. No, they're not. by a small country, but they probably can be bankrolled by the small country. And the immediate gains made by Caruvia's late intervention now going to turn on their heads, and Marhold, the betrayer, I think might feel the wrath of this. AK Sapastin, thank you very much for the follow, and Namtekor, thank you very much for the 9-month resubscription. It's a Twitch baby. Thank you for that. And then Alksoft wanted me to drink some tea. I might have already done this, but I'm thirsty. So, Caruvia, how much do you have in the tank? 46,000 manpower. You are currently in a golden era. You do not have up to your capacity in troops. You are able to recruit mercenaries if you need to, but at the moment we have Adenika's forces crossing the border, and then Caruvia is being offered a peace deal by Adenika, where Adenika basically takes a... Imagine this northern region. Like Holland, which is there. Dyer Mill, which is there. Cuttlesfold, which is there. Devased, which is there. So yes, this northern region. Adenika said, I want this. This is what we're fighting for right now. Is the same music seriously going to loop constantly? It's a whole playlist. Has been the whole time. Although I think that some of the music is dependent on which nation you're playing on, which areas of the world you're playing in, what is happening. There is some context, and we're probably losing the context because we're an observer. Meanwhile, Caruvia's got some noble rebels rising up as well. Rubyhold and Royal Sard heading home. So has... Oh, they peaced out. And they accepted the demands. So Adenika just basically got some free stuff from Caruvia because of a badly timed war. Just as Adenika and Small Country beat Arboran and co. That war probably meant that Adenika did not take as much from Elnor as they would have liked. But Adenika survived. And that's the important thing. Adenika, Rubenair, Small Country alliance held against the Arboran Nexus. And Caruvia and Marhold probably didn't want to hurt themselves too much, otherwise they'd have Krynvar come knocking again. And that little war is probably going to mean that Adenika will not come to their assistance in the future against Krynvar. I would imagine that Adenika will now watch any conflicts between Krynvar and these two, and then jump on these two when they're weakened. And Boris Carvo has also pieced out, I would imagine, for a white peace. I can't see anything having come of that particular conflict, except for the fact that people like Nomada would be looking at this going, you what? Why did you choose... Huh? And that's it. The player wars are over. 3 hours and 20 minutes minus some tech issues. And the world is largely at peace. So we have Arboran fighting against Vertesk, just trying to gain some more territories here on the borders with the Small Country. Conwell going up against Silvalar, Aranan and Blueheart. Again, just trying to take some of the territories down here around Istralor. Krynvar fighting against Tverkor, Konazad and Haraz Olden. Gaining more and more of the spine of the world. And this should be very much concerning for Aslam Azdir and also Marhold. Like, the more land that Krynvar's taking in the spine of the world, like, this is not easy stuff to take back. Once you get properly entrenched in the Dwarven tunnels, it is hard to root you out. And unfortunately, I don't think that Aslam Azdir has the necessary strength to fight back. Although Oslo Mazdir is allied to Soljalsat. So they have picked a fight. Oh, they've picked a side in the growing regional unrest in this region. And Soljalsat's only ally is Oslo Mazdir. And Kryenvar is probably a war that these guys do not want to get pulled into. This was more a contest against Mag-Almar. Although I think that Mag-Almar is basically a dead man walking. I can't see them coming out of this. Like, they got enemies on both sides now. I think that the best thing that Oslo Mazdir could do now is take back Shattered Crown to make sure that they retake the Dwarven homeland. Then probably go after Krakdumvor. And it's really unfortunate that Ovdel Kanzad was not here today, because they could very much have done with consolidating Hullaz, Krakazol, Chain Grasper, and then also colonising these two. Instead, they've been dealing with these cave goblin hordes all session. Hey Artos. Ogre player here, yeah, quit after the Lakefed betrayal. Oh, we got Blue Flames again! Bjarnrik jumping in, I would imagine. Bjarnriki, Conquest of Morbob. This is going after the gnomes. This was so inevitable. And I think this is really where Faceless's passivity is going to is going to play off against him. So the gnomes are probably going to jump in at sea, although Bjarnrik most likely has a very large navy. They do. But the gnomish hierarchy has just been far too passive in stopping this happening. Like, this is all Bjarnrik vassal, so is all of this. Bjarnrik's had completely free reign to just gobble up Goward. And while the gnomish hierarchy is getting some armies up, what are the sides here? So it's the gnomes and Neckcliff, who's not here, and Small Country. Poor Small Country, it's like every single war at the moment. Versus Bjarnrik, but it is only Bjarnrik. And the gnomes do have a pretty big fleet. But it looks like Bjarnrik's going to go for it, so we're going to see our first battle here in just a moment. So it is 22 heavies versus 24. Oh no, 27 heavies against 24. And Arboran just declared war on the gnomes as well. And it looks like the gnomish navy is going to get beaten by Bjarnrik. Bjarnrik probably having some national ideas. And some of the gnomish hierarchy's allies saying no to assisting. Small Country. You probably want to retreat from this battle now before you lose all of your heavy ships. Yeah, Bjarnrik's navy is just too strong. I've seen that happen before. Like, the gnomish hierarchy's strength is not in their heavy ships. And also these are very old. These are early Carracks. They should be our Carracks now. Their strength is actually ironically light ships. They just want to spam out about 1 million light ships and then just swarm their opponent with them. But I suspect that this is still too early in the game to really do that. What ideas did you take? Yeah, you have no naval ideas at all. Bjarnrik, meanwhile, also no naval ideas. Light ship combat ability, ship cost, naval force limit plus 25%, naval tradition plus 0.5. So neither side really having a huge advantage in naval stuff. And here we go. Small Country is going to attack into Bjarnrik. The gnomes are belatedly coming in as well. I would have sent the gnomes in first so that their infantry and their artillery could take their positions and then have the Small Country come in as the reinforcement, not the other way around. I think that's a big mistake. Although they are doing a lot of damage to Bjarnrik's armies. Bjarnrik, however, does have a lot of extra troops ready to send in. And this, of course, is going to be a Small Country that is a little bit depleted. They are doing a huge amount of damage.